Three, two, one, ghost. Hey, everybody. Hello. Three, two, one,
Hi,
ghost. Hey, Natalie. Hello, faithful listeners, early adopters. My name's Kyle.
listener.
Yeah. Yeah, one listener probably. It's a growing niche base. I am your host with a silent G, Kyle.
And I'm Natalie.
Hey, Natalie. I
Hi.
So we talk about spooky movies. It's our favorite thing. We enjoy doing that together. And today we're
Um,
talking about one of our favorite ones, Y2K's Final Destination. I
and for the record,
Yeah,
I want to get this out of the way.
yeah.
We're not experts on film critiques or anything of that nature,
Oh, not in the slightest.
but we're very passionate. We're a passionate pair.
As Rick Rubin once said, I I'm paraphrasing this, and I think he said it. All I know is I know what I like. And so there you go. And I'm just going to ride on that. And, there's so many opinions in the podcasting world. Like, it's like an oil spill. What's an extra drop or two? Right? Like, how are we really, we're not really harming anything by adding our opinions to the internet, right?
And I don't think that many
Like
people would
contributing to an oil spill.
disagree. Many people would disagree that Final Destination is a really important part of horror history.
I'm sorry, you said would agree or would not agree?
I think most people would agree that it
Oh,
is
yeah.
an important film,
Oh,
even if it
absolutely.
is a little cheesy.
And I think, and I definitely, I've got that in my notes because I really kind of want to hear your thoughts on this movie's place in, like, gosh, like now where it's like that shit's like a franchise now. How many of these movies are there? Like 5, 6? I think there's a new one coming
Six?
out this year too.
But we'll have to double check that. But the timing also on this movie is really interesting because I don't know if you thought about your history with it.
Oh
You
yeah.
definitely would have flown before having watched this movie, correct? Because
I have flown. Yeah, at least a couple times. I mean, like one, as a kid, I remember one time flying on my own for the first time, and I was 12 years old. It was the year, I want to say it was the year before this movie came out. It was 99, or yeah, summer of 99. Or it would have been, yeah, summer of 99. I was 12.
okay, so today when I watched this, I realized that I had never flown before I saw this movie. And
Okay.
as I was watching Devon Sawa, or Alex, go through the process of like getting to the airport and like how he looks at the scratch on the side of the plane and he like looks down and sees the space between, you know, where he's standing and the ground. I was like, I do this every time that I fly. Did this movie ruin flying for me before I ever flew?
It's certainly ruined flying for me, because I had this. Yeah, and I'm glad you bring this up because I really and one thing I actually appreciate about us doing this is I asked us, or asked you if we could do this podcast, maybe, or this episode after I had just taken a very quick succession of plane flights. I was like, I don't really want to I don't really want to push that hornet's nest, right? I don't no, I was like, I don't want to like record this episode, then go on. The entire trip I think required 5 different plane flights from there and back, right? And I was like, I don't want to test that. I don't want to test fate. I'm already weird about flying. And this movie absolutely was the catalyst. I don't remember having any issue with flying before, but gosh, once I saw this movie, shit fucked me up. Like now, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Like when he's checking the thing, I always check that shit. When we're doing like takeoff, I'm like the one just kind of sitting there, just like feel like just thinking, just overthinking every single little,
Oh,
bump
absolutely.
and every sort of sound. I swear to God, every time I'm on a plane and there's takeoff, there's some sound, some mechanical sound that I've never heard before. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? And I'm always watching the flight attendants who are just sitting, just like checking their phone, just hanging out, doing their thing, and being like, well, all right, if if they're not freaking out, then I shouldn't freak out. And then, but I don't even, it's too much for me. Yet I still fly.
Well, I'm the total opposite situation because I will be flying in 5 days and I'll be doing 3 flights in 4 days.
Yeah, fuck
So
that.
every time I fly, I think about Final Destination. And I thought a lot about this, and this might be a bold statement, but I think this whole plane crash scene is one of like the top scariest, most suspenseful scenes that I've ever watched. Like, I'm so afraid of a plane crashing. Like, seeing the whole incident with like the masks coming down, I think it's actually aged pretty well too, like effects wise.
I think so. I mean, the folk that that aren't able to see us in our video. I have my background right now of that famous plane flight. um, Further, just tempting fate. I think, yeah, like I mean, just that shit's effective because I never thought of that being an issue until I watched this movie, and then I didn't, just yeah, that shit fucks me up. I don't like it because it's like I don't know. Heights were always a thing for me anyway. And then just, you just feel so, you are so vulnerable. And I don't want to get too in the weeds and just terrify everybody of it, but it's just like, I don't know. Like, even if you can explain the science of it to me all day, sure, it's still a giant mechanical thing in the sky that burns up gasoline and just like, you can explain how, I don't know, whatever. It's just how little I actually understand about it,
Aerodynamics,
right?
aerodynamics
Aerodynamics,
mean nothing.
airstreams, whatever. But and even at the end of the day, like I don't know, it's still just two fuckers just sitting there at the front, and then just it's all just some fucking people at air traffic control, right? Like this is all still all of this, just this wild thing, putting a giant thing in the air, and we're leaving it all up to just human error. And I'm like, ah.
Or even like,
Yeah.
let's not forget that pilots aren't superhuman. They could have a heart attack, they could have a brain aneurysm. Like,
Yep.
is that why there's always two,
I think so. I was
just in case?
I think so. Yeah. Just or maybe just say that they don't
Or
get
does it
lonely.
actually take two people to fly that large of a plane? That I don't know.
I am I'm not gonna
We have some research to do.
we're gonna ask the research team to go ahead and look that up. Um so yes, yeah, I don't know. It's just like I don't fuck with flying, or well, I do fuck with flying, but it's like I think about it each time. I get some grim shit that goes through my head, but I think I'm just kind of
Oh,
like that
yeah.
a little bit anyway. But I but gosh, just just to watch everybody just like do their thing, do their crossword puzzle, act like it's nothing. I'm just like, God, I would love to escape the prison that my mind just traps me in when I'm on an airplane and just live in the freedom that these people have. And I think of all these
Yeah.
things, and I'm just like, that's why that's why I bring like goldfish crackers just to distract myself and just chomp on something. The when I'm in the air,
The
though, it's okay. I think it just okay, mostly it's just like yeah, the takeoff and the landing always kind of fuck me up.
the takeoff and the landing is yeah, I feel like it's super intense for me. Like I literally feel like I relate to Alex in this movie so much. His
Oh
whole
yeah,
attitude getting on that plane, like he's like sweating and
yeah,
just like not
that's me.
holding his composure well. And all the things that he notices are super like regular mundane things. Like when they show like that close-up shot of like the wing adjusting, which is like or like opening up, you know how it does that little
Yeah.
thing with the vents. And I was like, oh, that's like a totally normal thing, but they managed to make it terrifying. So,
Well, and then
round of
just like
applause to them.
well, and just how they demonstrate like so the movie starts off pretty early with like Alex getting ready for this flight. His dad says some weird cryptic shit, like, oh, you have your whole life ahead of you, Alex. And then
Also, is
uh-huh.
sidebar, are the parents younger than us? They look either the same age or younger, and he's supposed to be 17. I was like,
Mm,
those parents were not in their mid 40s. Like, they would have had to be young parents.
yeah, yeah, maybe it's something of like the late 90s, early 2000s, like Dawson's Creek era, where like all the, the parents look young, but all the teenagers look like they're 40. I'll get to Kerr Smith
Yeah,
later.
the teenagers are 26, but the parents are like 38.
Yeah. um so it starts off pretty early, right, where he's like, oh yeah, I want to go on this thing, but even in the bedroom, like in that first thing, like Saw was like feeling pretty like cryptic, like, oh, a flight, I don't know, but then he goes, but yeah, I'm exactly like that dude where I'm already sweating bullets. I'm already like, I thought like, drinking or smoking a little bit or something before getting on a flight would help, but nope, absolutely not. I've learned that.
Yeah,
I've learned
you
the
have
hard
your
way.
wits about you.
Oh yeah. But it's, this movie goes pretty hard, because like you get in and it's really, I think, just supposed to demonstrate just like how much death does not fuck around, because like you see a baby, and then you
And he
see
says it'd be a real fucked up god to crash this plane.
what do you like I'm I'm like,
Yeah.
they just like keeps cutting at being like, see, like I don't know like what that choice is, and cutting to the baby and shit, like I don't know. The early 2000s were just cruel in a lot of ways. And just so yeah, just to be like, all right, that does not fuck around. But same thing, man, that takeoff, like that just, because that, you get that first bump and then it like rests again. And it's like, oh, okay, we're cool. You know.
Well, the other interesting thing too is obviously this is pre 9/11,
Yeah.
and there's so many indicators of that being true just by like that random guy being able to hand out pamphlets in the middle of the airport. I'm like, that would never fly. Pun intended.
Uh
These days. But just the way that like him even yelling like the plane's going to explode, he would have been in handcuffs. Like, absolutely not. You cannot say a plane is going to explode on the plane. And Per Smith, Carter, like for some reason decides he needs to fight him.
well,
It's like, why is he such a dick
well,
the
I
whole
I've got
movie?
I've got a couple points about some just the testosterone just flowing through this movie, and just the
Yeah.
commitment. the
Um, the other thing that caught my eye was that Clear, not
clear
Claire, right?
clear
D-
rivers,
Clear Rivers.
clear
That's a
rivers
great
Cuomo.
name. Clear Rivers is reading a book on her way up the escalator. And I don't think I've ever seen anyone reading a book walking around an airport. Who would do that? Going up an escalator? They're like really trying to show how artsy and smart she is. Maybe I'm just not a reader, but
Oh yeah, just part-time goth girl, part-time like amateur welder, I guess. um
yeah.
and then just from the very beginning, just giving just like just the most, just lack of better term, fuck eyes to
Oh
Devon
yeah,
Sawa,
absolutely.
just like
Absolutely.
really like intense.
Yeah.
So to demonstrate that early on,
Yeah.
but yeah, dude, like when Jesus, like if you, I already know the answer to this, but you're on a plane, right? Let's say your next flight, and some teenager just starts getting up, being like, nope, 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 we're all going to die. I'm not going to do this. I'm running off the plane. And he runs off the plane. You get up and follow him, right?
If he said the plane is going to explode,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Because I
Because
mean,
he
even
might know something that I don't know. Like, he might be a liar, but I'd rather be safe than sorry.
that's the other thing. I think maybe always, but post 9/11, not only would they have grounded that flight, but they would have grounded like probably every other flight in the airport. The dude's
Yeah.
yelling
No,
that
I
shit,
know. I was like, they
right?
just the plane just left on time. Like
Yeah.
that, I don't even think that would have happened pre 9/11.
Right.
And the fact that they like were ready to not let the chaperones of all the high school students like go back on the plane. No way. You can't send a bunch of minors without their like they would just make all of them get off the plane. That's what I think.
That's kind of what I'm thinking. So like, so he gets on this plane, and this is when we get to the premonition. And this is why, like, and what I think is really effective about at least the first one of these movies is because, it's going to be a fake out, but it ends up being that fake out, right? And you see,
You kind of forget though when you're watching it.
Mhm.
Like, especially if it was your first watch.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he's like, all right, fuck this. I'm seeing everybody blow up, comes back, he gets up, runs off, and then let me think if I remember everybody who follows him. So let me see if I remember everybody.
I think I've got him without writing it down because I just watched it. Ready? We've
Go
got
for it.
Alex,
all right,
Todd, Harry, Carter,
yeah,
Billy,
yup,
and Miss Luton, and then the French teacher.
yeah.
I don't remember his name. It's 7 people, but then
the French teacher gets back on.
The French teacher gets back on, which Miss Luton just can't get past.
Whoops.
So yeah, that's all of them, right?
And then
everybody.
And then of course, back to
clear,
duh.
Yeah.
Kerr Smith starts, doing his thing, getting aggro and fighting everybody, right? And then Jesus, I don't know, man. That's the other thing too, because it's like I'm like when I'm coming to the airport, like if I'm taking like the light rail in, or if I'm like sitting like in the terminal at the window and see a plane go up, I'm like, I don't know, what if it just blows up? Like it's so terrifying.
But also, if it did blow up, I think logistically, okay, maybe not logistically, scientifically,
yeah,
it wouldn't blow out the windows, right? Like how the windows like crash in on the airport,
right?
Would that happen from that distance?
Yeah, that seems
wild.
pretty. It's pretty. I am not a scientist, but so we're gonna have to. We'll shoot that back up to the research team and follow back up with the if that works. But yeah, Jesus, that's fucked up.
Yeah, I really enjoy watching the whole thing. I like seeing the chairs fly out the windows. His face like burning is pretty. Is a pretty cool shot. Like, because they hold it for so long. So I think the like this movie starts out strong. And the other thing I realized as I was watching through it, and why I probably don't watch it as often as some of the others, is it's really dramatic and dark in tone the entire time. After that first scene with him and his parents, it's pretty somber. Like it's some really like CW teen drama shit going on, which I love, but it's there's not like no smiles and fun to be had in this whole movie.
Yeah, I'm looking through my notes. Yeah, definitely. Post 9/11, they would have deported that whole thing immediately. I'm just like, yeah, oh my gosh. So they have so they're interrogating everybody, and you have like the FBI agents, right? I forget Agent the other dude's name. Oh, but yeah, Shrek. One of the multiple movie Shreks we have. Who don't trust what this idiot's saying for even just half a second.
I wouldn't.
Right. So then they start following this dude around. They have I'm trying to think, does it, and I think it goes next into like it's like a month later, and they're having the memorial.
Specifically 39 days later. And I was like, why did death decide to wait so long? Like it was like you enjoy that 39 days.
Yeah, I was like and I was going to ask you, I was like, what is the purpose of 39? Was there some We're
I don't know.
gonna have
I
to throw
was
it to the
trying to
research
like
team.
I was trying to like get more artsy with this than I think it really is, because one of the first things that happens in the like opening credits is he grabs his like Tour of France book, and behind it is Death of a Salesman, and I was like, what are those things related? Like, cuz they like stop on Death of a Salesman for so long, and I was like, is it just because it's called Death of a Salesman?
Just any book called Death that a high
Yeah.
schooler may be forced to read, I guess.
Yeah. Um but yeah, I don't understand why Death would wait. And what I love about the memorial, I don't like Miss Luton. I think she's very annoying, and like I know I've never like sent someone back on a plane to like die in a plane crash, but she's really letting it affect her whole entire existence. And I love that she says, "Stay away from me, you scare the hell out of me."
I
When
know.
Alex tries to comfort her, she's like, "Back the fuck up."
I wonder how many
To a student.
that's gotta be like a meme, like teacher, like public school teachers share with each other. I don't know. Just get away from me, scare the shit out of me. I love that. One thing that I thought was just watching it again pretty recently, and there's a long gap before the last time I saw it, but just
Mhm.
oh my gosh, like the late 90s, 2000s, just like commitment to like aggro masculinity and homophobia. My favorite line was great. What's
Oh, I
Devin
know what
Sawa's
you're
best buddy's name?
I know exactly what moment you're talking about. Can I guess it?
I said this to Joel when I your husband Joel, sorry. Um when I saw him on our trip. I just go, I don't want you to take this the wrong way, but I miss you. And it's like, bro, you're all of your friends are dead. Like y'all, like you witnessed like all of your
Yeah.
peers and a teacher, like, and you saw like a baby and other fucking people on this plane. Just you saw in your head what happened to all of these people, and you
Mhm.
got to watch it outside from the terminal, and then you're only the only survivors. Like, I mean, instead of any sort of trauma bonding or anything, it's just like,
Yeah.
hey bro, I don't want you to think I'm gay, but
Exactly. Like
I
I would
miss
be
you. I love
like
it.
they should have been like holding each other and like sobbing.
They
Like
were
they're best friends. He lost his brother. Like,
they poop together. You remember that in the beginning. I'm like,
yeah.
that's a close relationship if they're doing that together. And then he wants to be like, I won't take this the wrong way, but I miss you. It's pretty
Yeah.
it's
Yeah,
pretty
no,
wonderful.
it makes absolutely no sense. Yeah. The and Carter, the I keep wanting to like I keep going back to him because he's just like the entire movie is just 100% dick. Like
Yeah.
he is just the biggest asshole. And the best part is you see pretty much everyone else's parents except for Billy. No, you see Billy for a second. Like you don't get any of Carter's upbringing, but you're like, this kid's clearly fucked up. Why do we know about Clear's dead father and see Alex's perfect parents and see Todd's parents who are absolutely awful to poor Alex? Like, but we don't get any background on Carter. I need to know why he's such an asshole.
I
Is it
yeah.
because he's 26 and
I
still
think
in high
so.
school?
Yeah, it's because he's 30 and he's still in high school. Hey, shout out to Kerr Smith. I watched
I
plenty of
love Kerr
Dawson's
Smith.
Creek. So
Mm-hmm.
shout out to him. Could be both in
We love Jack,
yeah, he was
the
oh
queer
man.
icon.
I was so in love with Andy until she cheated on Pacey, and I never forgave her for it. Um
Absolutely not. What?
so
How dare she?
Dawson's Creek
Maybe?
season 3
Spoiler,
spoilers.
spoilers for Dawson's Creek.
Sorry, we
Jack is gay and Andy is a whore.
hey, that's a not nice word to say, but she made her choice, and I mean, hey, Pacey ended up where he should have ended up, right? So it all works out.
He
Um,
did. He did. He got where he belonged.
So Todd's death fucks me up real hard because for a different way. And all of these deaths I think are all generally pretty great, to on the spectrum, right? But with Todd's death, or at least how that affects me specifically, is like, you know, this is the bathroom scene, right? With the famous one. I think you can see it like in the trailers, and like with the thing wrapped around in the wire, and the Rube Goldberg-ishness of death's, pettiness. I'm
Probably the
like,
most suspenseful and
yeah,
slow death of the bunch.
maybe we'll get
Okay,
to the
but
teacher's death.
the teacher's death is not suspenseful. It's hilarious. For Todd, it like they do it the right way where like he's shaving and then he's
Yeah,
trimming his nose hairs. Like he's putting like sharp objects right next to his face.
yeah,
That's hard to watch. And half of his screen time is on the toilet.
yeah. I know, no kidding. When yeah, I think it's what fucks me up is like, I don't know. I just think of all the times like I've tripped over something or almost slipped in the shower. I feel like I'm just a generally kind of clumsy person anyway, just by default. So that's the other thing. Every time I'm in the bathroom and I'm like stepping out of the toilet, or no, I'm sorry, stepping out of like the bathtub, right? I'm like
Yeah.
making sure I don't slip because of this fucking movie. Like, so bathrooms just are ruined for me now. Planes ruined
But
for me now. Public
and
transit
you know, I don't
yeah,
want to
and
skip
trains.
ahead to future Final Destination movies, but
But
you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is this the only movie where one death covers its tracks? Because after Todd's death, the water
cleans up
goes
after itself.
back, it cleans up after itself. And there's that weird shadow blob that shows up that people very visibly see. He
Yeah,
sees it behind him, like in the reflection of the mirror. Like that would be enough for me to get out of that fucking room. I'd be
yeah,
like, Candyman's coming for me.
yeah. That's literally, well, yeah, absolutely, Tony Todd. But
didn't even realize.
I'm like, so yeah, bathrooms, I'm just terrified now. So just respect tile floors, be careful, watch your step. This is our
Yeah.
public service announcement. But so they find out, they rule it a suicide, you know. Devin Sawa shows up. Everyone's like, what the fuck are you doing here, bro? And then also, what's her face? Clear is there as well, being all
Mhm.
fucking spooky and
Hiding
shit.
behind the tree. But
Right.
like the Morticia lighting, did you notice that her face is like very clearly lit
I
and
love it.
everything else is really dark?
She's great. And then it's been a minute, but so from there, right, is this when Devon Sawa Alex goes to Clear's house to be like, hey, what the fuck are you doing there?
Yes, he goes to her house and they have that whole dramatic conversation of how she could feel what he's feeling and like that art
Yes.
piece where she's like, this is you, or this is how you make me feel. When she points out that statue with all the holes
I
in
have
its
it
head. And he's like, he says, I'm so sorry.
I have it written down in full right here. I could not find it online, so I had to watch it with subtitles a couple
Oh
times
my
to
goodness.
make sure I've got the whole thing. I'm going to get to that in a second. My favorite was, well, not my favorite, but there. So he's walking to Clear's house, and then that, yeah, like death sometimes can be like a shadow. In this case, death is like a leaf that kind of falls in front of him.
Well,
Do you
he
remember
often,
that?
okay, so before Todd dies, it's paper that got chopped up flying.
Right.
And then before, then it's the leaf. And then there's the guy who's burning, he's like burning paper or something, and the like burning pieces of paper are flying. So they do
Right.
it several times.
That
I
leaf
don't
just
know what
reminded
the significance of that is.
the leaf just reminded me of Forrest Gump. Like that that leaf that just kind of falls from time to time. And I was like, is that
Yeah.
death? Is Forrest Gump and our Forrest Gump and Final Destination in a connected universe? I mean, I think at least there's enough evidence to suggest it, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So he goes and sees, Clear, who is a welder, just doing, work in her garage, which is either just to set up this weird ass speech about sculptures or just to serve that other part in the end where they're like, okay, so there's sharp things here. Here's right. So, they're talking about, what were you doing? Oh, I don't know. What were you doing? I don't know. Do that whole thing. And then Clear points to this fucking thing where it's just like, it's like a bucket with like a kind of,
like a coil of some sort,
bouncy kind of thing with like a number 2 or a question mark on top. And she just goes, Alex, clear my throat. Alex, do you know what this is? He goes, no, it's you. Not a likeness. It's how you make me feel, Alex. Like you, the sculpture doesn't even know what or why it is. It's reluctant to take form in creating an absolute but incomprehensible attraction. So what the fuck does any of that mean?
It's her telling him that she is attracted to him. That's how I interpreted it. Like she's like, you have fortune telling powers and somehow we're connected, and I want to get with you.
I think, she follows up and then follows that up with we haven't talked to each other in 4 years. But then she was just like, but what you felt, I felt it. I didn't know what it is, but I felt it because you felt it. And or something along those lines. And I'm like, if I were a girl that was really into this boy and I knew that he was having visions, I'd say I was feeling him too. Right?
Just you know what? That's such a great way to like just strike up the conversation.
Be like, yeah, maybe I don't. And she's like broad enough about it where she's like, I don't, don't like, maybe I don't know, I see it, but if you feel it, I feel it, so we're like kind of connected, right? And then later he like says, well, what if like Todd's not the first one? And like, what if it's like after, like, what if we're next or whatever? And then she's like, did you feel that? And then I'm like, bitch. And I'm like, see,
you're not feeling shit.
You're full of shit.
You're trying to get that dick. I get it. It's fine. Also, speaking of course, dick. After saying you're trying to get that dick, I would say Devon Sawa is the only person in this movie that looks like the age that he's playing.
I think so.
They said he's 17, and I was like, he looks like a little baby, and he has like all the like 17-year-old like acne going on. Like he looks so young, and he's about 40 now, right?
Yeah. Oh, he's killing it in the Chucky series.
Looking great. It. He looks better. Yeah. He looks better now than as a kid, for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the George Clooney.
He was the hot thing though. Like the Tiger Beat magazine, his face was all over it.
It's not a subscriber. I was more of a Nintendo Power man myself. So they get together, and they're like, all right, Todd's dead. There's something up with this. Let's go raid his body. See what we can find. Which is the
oddest choice.
Now, I always forget that Tony Todd's character, and this is where we're introduced to the mortician, Tony Todd.
Best character.
Small golf applause for him and his talents. Did you know he has a name? I always forget that he has a name.
He has a name that isn't the mortician?
Yeah, his name is William Bloodworth, which, to be honest, is the fucking hardest name for a mortician. Like outside of Joey Bonesaw, but like I'm pretty sure
he couldn't have chose any other career with that name.
It's just like, I don't know, that name goes pretty hard. I'm was pretty impressed with that. So, he just volunteers information that y'all fucked with Death's plan. I know a lot about all of this. Good thing that it was the mortician in this specific town, or even though like I'm trying to figure out like, is Tony Todd Death or is Tony Todd just you
I
know.
wanted to pose the same question to you because
Mhm.
he says so many things that imply that he is, but he also just seems like he just loves being a creepy mortician. Like he's like, I'm gonna fuck these kids up with like some
Spooky
weird
stories.
thoughts. But he wasn't wrong with his spooky stories. But he says, I'll see you soon, which could mean I'm the Reaper, or it could mean I'm a mortician. So like if you die, like I'm gonna see your body
Yeah.
soon. But I do like that he says you don't even want to fuck with that Mac Daddy.
No, I love that.
That's
And
the
death.
best. He delivers that line. It's such a dumb line, and he sells it.
I
Selling
hope it
it.
was his idea to say it. And they were like, how can we say no? That's so fucking awesome. I hope he insisted that his name was William Bloodworth, because that's pretty, I love it.
Yeah, because
So
he's in almost all the other movies too.
so I think except maybe the most recent, I forget.
But yeah, I agree.
Um, so then everybody gets together to be like, all right, here's what this mortician's told us. And
No,
then
they don't get together intentionally. It's Clear and Alex having
right,
coffee. And
talking
then
about it,
asshole Carter drives
drives
by
up.
with Terry. And then Billy just so happens to be bicycling about with pizza loose, apparently. And the teacher is inside the coffee shop. So they all just, because Carter's like, well, isn't this a nice reunion of some sort, and then
Yeah.
starts like sexually like verbally assaulting the teacher. He's like
Yeah.
very sexual with her because he's 26.
Yeah, because he is a grown ass adult.
He thinks that they have a chance.
And then you get another vision, right, of the bus through the out, out the reflection of the window, right?
I like those. I like when you see the reflection of the bus and he like turns around and there is no bus, and it
Yeah,
happens again later.
I liked it. And I
But very
think,
supernatural.
right. And
It it feels more suspenseful and spooky than like going forward. I think it ends
mhm.
up being more like action. So Terry's death is my favorite
Terry's
because
death
it's out of nowhere.
Terry's death is a good one. I don't know. I would put it like, like I definitely put it in that category of like maybe not as good as like Sam Jackson's death in Deep Blue Sea, but when it
Well,
comes to
not my
just
favorite
out of
ever.
nowhere, but when it comes to out of nowhere deaths, it is it's pretty fun. I enjoyed that.
Well, they do a really good job at like capturing the splatter effect when she gets hit. Like it sounds almost as though she like open and like you just see all the blood like splatter on their faces and they're just absolutely like shocked. And she's telling him to drop dead. So that's even more fun. But I love seeing her get hit by that bus every time.
See, it's funny because it's a great death. It's not my favorite out of nowhere death. That's Samuel L. Jackson. I'm not saying it was yours. I wasn't, assuming that, but it's also maybe not my favorite giant vehicle impact kill, because it might have been the friend from Bride of Chucky.
Mm,
Because you just see a big blah, just like a meat sack just splat everywhere, and that was pretty fun. and
very
that
cartoonish.
Yeah, and that whoa, 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 and then it was very. I'm exaggerating probably a little bit. Um. So, gosh, I think is it like after this point where we're starting to put together that not only is everybody in dying that was involved, but we're going in an order. There's a pattern emerging,
Mhm.
right? Going from, Todd to Terry, and then he's like trying to figure out, all right, who's next?
Because he's gone full conspiracy theory. Like he's got all these newspaper clippings and shit all over his room, which I don't know why his parents would allow him to do that. And then he's like lining up the paper with the computer screen based off of what the news report had. So he's really putting these pieces together now.
It's some good detective work. I always love a good research scene. I always love a good cork board with, the things tied together. I love that. I feel like I want to make that just a room in my house, my conspiracy room, or I just have one of those 3-panel ones.
I feel like it's a missed opportunity. I don't know, maybe this isn't funny, but what I would really love to see is like, did you already have the cork board and those really specific round thumbtacks and like red yarn? Or did you like have to go to Office Depot and pick all that stuff up to have your conspiracy theory board and then go back home and set it up?
And and he's
Curious.
17, and it doesn't show that he's like working any sort of like part-time job even or anything. So he's got to be going to his mom asking for, corkboard
I need
conspiracy
money for
materials.
school supplies.
Yeah, right. So he deduces that poor Ms. Luton is next on death's design, and we, at least at some point, we cut over to the nicest house I've seen a public school teacher own. I'm curious
with your favorite stained glass pattern.
Oh, I love that. We want to replace
that knife.
Yeah, we want to replace that glass in our front door with that.
Sorry, dagger. That's a dagger.
Dagger, right? And man, like, and on that note, but just, school teachers, man, like they've just been through enough, and it's hard enough as it is. She just wanted to take that trip to France, damn it. And she just, is just trying to do her thing. But man, getting caught up in this shit sucks. Hers is a rough death.
She does say that she's lived in that house her whole life. So I'm assuming that a parent passed away. She says mom's favorite, puts on the record. Like, she didn't buy that house on that teacher's salary.
Okay.
That's what I'm figuring out. Yeah. I think she inherited that beautiful home.
Now, this one is, I think, an example of, setting your mug on top of the computer like that. That's your fault. You set that into motion.
There's so many things that are, I was laughing when I was watching her death this time, because
it's a cartoon.
There's no world in which my mug is cracked and leaking at that level all over the floor and I don't notice. I would have noticed right away. Like, I find that hard to believe. That's the most unbelievable part of the whole thing to me, honestly. But she also sees the weird shadow blob. Mm-hmm. She seems genuinely spooked. Like, she's not like thrown off guard like Todd was. Like, she seems freaked out. She also, and she calls the detectives because Alex is lurking outside her window, which I don't know how he thinks that's going to help anything. And then they just take a 17-year-old into custody with no one knowing. But yeah, I used to like her death, and now I just think it's more funny than anything else. So she ranks pretty low on the list of deaths for me.
I mean, I just thought
it's fun. It's
the absolute cartoon nature of it was pretty great. And just like, it just keeps getting worse and worse for this poor woman. And I'm like,
when the chair falls, so she pulls the towel, the knife stabs her right in the chest, and then the chair falls over and pushes the knife further into her.
That's fucked up.
He didn't deserve all that. She was already a mess as it was.
And then just to be safe, the house blows up. Because let's just
so now no one else is inheriting that house.
No, nobody's getting that house. I mean, I bet that lot's probably alone worth a lot of money, because like, this is what, like, New York area, New York suburbs. So Gosh. So where are we at now? So the house blows up.
House blows up, and the detectives are now interrogating Alex yet again. And he's like talking about Death's design, just sounding like a total weirdo. And the one, I don't remember the first detective's name, the guy with the glasses is the one asking all the questions. And then Detective Shrek is just watching, just so like serious, just no expression on his face. And after Alex leaves, he said that he creeps him out because he was starting to believe him. And I was like, that's interesting. Wouldn't have expected. I forgot that he said that. And
I
then the
like
other detective is like, you're starting to creep me out.
I like I like, ACAB, right? But I like when when law enforcement, when they start to be like, oh fuck, maybe something spooky is going on. Like
Yeah.
I like that. Because you know what?
Yeah.
Come on. So
Yeah. I liked that. So then from there, they have to let him go because they have nothing to hold him on. So he leaves,
mhm.
and for some reason,
I want to say then that's when they catch up back together with Carter, who's a mess right
because
now.
so Clear meets Carter and Billy at the memorial statue
Mhm.
because the detectives are trying to follow Alex. I don't understand why they like separate at that point. That
Yeah,
part I didn't quite understand. So they're all driving together to that really dramatic 90s sounding pop song,
love
which
it.
really stood out to me. Um,
Well, and
and I
then
don't remember how Alex gets back into the group.
either way, they get back to the car. They're driving through town, and
I got
Alex,
it.
yeah,
She says that they need to find Alex because he knows who's next. And then Billy and Carter are interested because they're like, oh, he knows which one of us is going to die.
now that a few people have died now, it's
Mm-hmm.
so they connect with Alex, driving through town, explaining the whole like, all right, here's the map, everyone, this and this and this and this, or at least here, and this is when Kerr Smith is like, oh fuck, I'm next, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, or at least he's next. And then he starts going into this whole like, well, then fuck it. I'm just gonna go on my whole fucking thing because
Yeah.
as aggro dudes
I'm the
do,
worst.
like I'm the worst. It's about me. So let's go ahead and just be an asshole and just drive through town. Be super dangerous, right? So then decides to pull onto some train tracks and then just stop. And you're just like, what the fuck, bro? I mean,
And they're all just yelling at him. I actually really love everything that they say to him because it feels so real. They're like, fucking stop, dude. Like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
like just
Like,
I think we've
it's
all had that
very
friend.
convincing.
We've all had that friend in high school, and sometimes they're behind a wheel of a car at the time, and you're just like, hey, bro, you need to calm down. What's going on? Like, and pull onto this train tracks. And then all of a sudden, I forget exactly what he says, but then Kerr Smith is like, you know what? Fuck it. I control my life, as I'm just gonna do it, right? And then
Yeah.
bam, seatbelt isn't going.
Yeah.
And
They're
then
all out of the car. And Alex did see the train reflection in the
mhm,
window before it happened. And he thought his seatbelt was ripped. And then he looked back down and his seatbelt was secure. So he had a little mini premonition of that.
no, little baby one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I I don't know. This one's always kind of a funny one. I always forget how little Sean William Scott is in this movie, and I'm pretty sure this is after American Pie. but
No,
so I
I
want to
don't
say,
think so.
I think American Pie
They
was
might
year
have come
two,
out
right?
around the same time. So maybe he had like a smaller role in this.
Just
Oh, it
poor
was
guy.
1999.
Oh, see, so there you
You're
go.
right.
Pre
Yeah, this is
Y2K.
this is after American Pie, which is that was like that was a big deal for him.
The
But
first,
he's pretty yeah, the first American Pie. He's pretty lackluster in this movie. Like
yeah,
he has no real character, and he kind of gets the same like Terry effect when he dies because he's literally saying like he's literally again telling someone to drop dead. And then but his is very different because I like that like half, like
yeah,
it's not a full decapitation, like it just goes through like right like where your lips meet.
yeah.
That makes sense. So you get like half a head. So I like that. I like that
It's
imagery.
it's like Pac-Man
Yeah.
a little bit, you know,
Like a little
or
Pac-Man split.
yeah, exactly. He's just a little Pac-Man,
Yeah.
So, and then that's when they figure out like, oh, it skips, right?
Hmm.
Introducing which
You save someone.
if you watch these movies, like, don't feel like you have to try to remember any rules because
No, don't
rules tend
remember
to
any
just
rules.
go ahead and just reset each other, reset themselves every movie anyway.
Yeah, they're
Um,
bonkers.
so
Yeah,
then
so then he's next. Now Alex is next.
yes, and they're like, okay, then the only way to maybe do this is just to fucking just hide out and
Okay.
see what
This
uh-huh.
the hiding out, the most ridiculous thing
Oh yeah.
I've ever seen. I so watching it today, I was like, number one, whose cabin is this? Where did you
Yep.
get this cabin, young man? Second, he's like wearing gloves to open a can of what is that? What is he eating? Why can't he just have normal snacks? Like, why is he depriving himself
I love
of
that. He's like,
regular food?
no, I only eat 30-year-old atomic bomb shelter creamed corn. Just like this is my
He's like
life now.
he's like chewing it like it's jerky, but it's extremely like gelatinous in
Oh
texture.
Jesus. It's like MREs or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
That's so
I was
bad.
having a great time. I was having a great time watching that. Yet he had no fear of trying to relight a lantern. Like I just the logic in that just didn't make sense. And I was like, "Oh yeah, you're supposed to be 17. So this kind of makes sense that that would be your solution." And then what
Yeah.
drives him to realizing that that he has like an epiphany of he didn't switch seats with the popular girls in real life. It was in his vision that they had switched seats. So he got the order mixed up.
Right. So that means it clears next, not him. And it's like, all right, now I gotta escape over to Clear's place.
Mm-hmm.
So which and then we still have the FBI agents, following him.
Yeah.
So then you have, yeah, like I guess the only reason to set up this whole thing is Claire is a welder, Clear is a welder. So you can have this garage scene, right? Um, which was a little bonkers.
What are your how do you feel about that this whole act? Like this whole set piece of like the house, the live wire, the gasoline spill, the lights exploding on the walls. Like it feels every time I watch it, I get bored. Like, oh, and then he's like trapped underneath a tree when he's like running for her. There's a
Yeah.
tree that like falls over on him or something like that. And he's like drowning in a puddle and comes up from the puddle. So I was like, is death trying to kill them both simultaneously now? Or was that just him being a klutz?
And
What's going on?
then and then does death like also, yeah, like does death like interfere with other people trying to like get in their way, like when they're trying to, they
Yeah,
is in
like what
the,
are the rules? What are the rules on that? Or is that part of Death's design?
I wouldn't know. It changes every movie. So I've you just kind of sit around and just grin and just take it all in. So yeah, it gets kind of a little action movie is at this point, that whole
Yeah.
rescuing her, which by then at that point, like, and then he saves her. So
Yeah,
which
he saves her because he grabs the wire and it electrocutes him. And the worst part of that whole scene is her calling him baby out of nowhere.
oh yeah.
Like he runs over
She inserts herself like quite a
Oh,
bit.
she really does. Like she's like, we're in a relationship.
Yeah.
Like he saved my life. Clearly, we're betrothed.
Oh Jesus. And then the idea is that you're supposed to believe that him by electrocuting himself, it skips her, and then he technically like, or I don't know, the idea is that like by getting electrocuted, like he like dies ish and it skips past him, or like,
I don't understand that part at all. Like how they're
because they
like
seem
what's the
pretty,
loophole there?
yeah, because they seem pretty confident that they solved it.
They absolutely did. And I think the biggest takeaway that I have from that whole thing is that the dog is okay. Like
Mhm.
that live wire was coming for the dog. So
We
that
are
worried me.
321 Ghost Pod. We are very staunch supporters of doesthedogdie.com. I check it before every movie. I do not fuck with dog
I
death.
don't. Do you know why I don't check it? Because it's one of the few things that can affect me in a horror
Mhm.
movie now. Like I'm so callous to everything that could possibly happen to people. But if somebody fucks with someone's dog or cat, or even a bird, any pet that someone, you know, values and loves and is part of their little family, like don't they're not going to tell anybody that you murdered someone. They can't talk.
Yeah, I know the fuck, right?
They'll be
That was,
quiet.
I know, Halloween
Yeah.
A plus movie. Actually, no, well, now it's just an A. It would have been A plus. He kills that fucking dog. I'm like, what the fuck?
Mm,
So thinking that they solved this based on, I mean, even when you're watching the movie, you're like, well, hold on. Like,
based on
what
what? Yeah.
based on what do you feel have this confidence? But death allows them to have this false confidence, because I think a full what 6
Six
months go by.
months.
6 months, which is divided, how many, oh, hold on, let me see how many days are in 6 months, right? 30 times 6, right? That's 180 divided by 39. That is not a number.
But okay, I have a question for you.
Sure.
If you went through all of this and it all began with a plane crash on your way to Paris, after only 6 months, would the first vacation that you take on an airplane be to Paris? Or even would you even want to go on a plane ever again?
I don't know, like fuck. uh no, I'd be like Travis Barker. Like he doesn't fly planes anymore, and I think he takes a boat.
Really?
Yeah, because after that whole plane crash
Wow.
that he was on, like however um
Yeah.
and he doesn't, so like when they tour in Europe, when Blink 182 tours like in Europe, like he takes a
Yeah.
boat. He's like, all right, I'll meet you there.
That's wild.
Because right, and I mean, like, yeah, fuck, I wouldn't, if I was like involved in any of that, I would never fly a plane ever again. That'd be just, I'm like,
I don't think I would want to, but even if I did, I wouldn't want to go to Paris. Like
yeah,
too many bad memories. Like I just say, you know what? Fuck it. I'll go everywhere else,
you
but I'm
wouldn't
not
do
going to
it.
Paris.
You wouldn't do it like, oh, this is like, we're gonna do this in honor of our friends at school because this is like what we,
No,
yeah, I know, I
that's
wouldn't either, I know.
I am I am very
Fuck
anti
that.
doing things in honor of people. The only thing that I will do in honor of someone is if you tragically die, I will watch horror movies in your honor.
Oh, thank you.
Because
I
it is
appreciate
something that
that.
I would do anyway, but I wouldn't go to Paris.
Yeah. So you just do the same thing you'd be doing. Just think about me sometimes.
Yes, and I think of you fondly every time I did it. I'd be like, oh, I wish
Nice.
Kyle was here. But yeah.
So it takes a full 6 months and
6 months.
a plane to France later for Alex to realize, huh, death never, yeah, I don't know. I guess it just never really came back, huh? Never really came for
Yeah,
us.
just
Yeah. So, and then all of a sudden, 6 months later, and again, I don't know why death waits. I just think death must be just kind of petty or bored or got busy. He was just like, I need to go like
I
cause
got a
some
lot of
other
other
mass
shit to
death.
handle.
I gotta
Yeah.
go. I gotta go to a NASCAR track to go catch
Yeah.
the races. I don't have time for all of this. I need to go, yeah, on the most extravagant roller coaster that a county fair ever had.
And we didn't even talk about John Denver.
Oh yeah, geez. Oh yeah, right. The John Denver song. Because they do
Happens
that.
3 times, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, and just what does the family of John Denver think about this? Like watching
I
this
thought about
movie.
that a lot too. Like you just use our like or dead family member who died on a plane crash as your omen for death.
It's
That's awful.
yeah, it's pretty awful. Yeah, that's pretty rough. So yeah, but sure, yeah, the John Denver thing is it was very strange to me. But I think so he starts seeing, a bunch of weird, ominous shit again. Um, narrowly dodges the bus. I'm reading off the end of Wikipedia here to wrap this up.
Oh yeah,
And
because
then
Clear sees the bus
right,
reflection.
right.
Yeah.
So maybe
She
she
sees
wasn't
that
making
bus
it up.
reflection and like screams out Alex. And that's the only thing that saves him, like by an inch. Like that bus was real close.
Which now we're supposed to believe now that's what skips Alex. Which I'm if that's what was supposed to kill Alex, I would push back on death a
No,
little
not the
bit.
bus. No, it's the sign because the bus
Oh,
thing happens and then the sign goes to hit him and Carter pushes him out of the way. That's
right.
where it skips Alex.
Okay, because I would have been mad if there was another bus death. I'd be like, you've been doing such a good
Get
job.
more creative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like,
Death,
don't.
you've been in this line of work for a very long time.
Yeah.
You can do
So,
better.
and then Carter's just like, who's
Who's
next?
next? Who's next? I actually really like that ending because I
Yeah, me
think the
too.
whole time you're like, why the fuck does this guy get to survive? Like, he's a total dick, but then he's totally like sweet and a different person in a matter of 6 months. And I get that he went through a lot and maybe he, started fresh and decided to be a new man.
And
But it's a
and
lot.
I guess maybe if we ever get to Final Destination 2, we can figure this out because I know they mentioned it maybe very briefly, but so Clear returns is the only person that returns in Final Destination
Mm-hmm.
2. But that means so I'll never get his name or Smith dies, well, allegedly, with the
Mm-hmm.
sign coming right at him. And that's how
Yeah,
the
he's got to
movie
be dead.
ends. So then the next on death's list would be Clear,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then Alex again. So,
Mm-hmm.
but then I think they insinuate that Alex is dead in Final Destination 2. But wouldn't Clear have needed to die first? I know she's like committed in that, or not committed. Sorry, she puts herself in that padded room, which
Yeah.
that's some really good health insurance to be able to just do that on your own. But
Yeah. And smart.
yeah,
But yeah, is it that they show an article of him being dead? Or does he
right.
just go like, I mean, what if he like faked his death and then he comes back for like Final Destination like 8?
Oh, I'd fucking love
He's,
that.
I would, I would give them my money so fast. They could take it right out of my hot little hands.
Right.
But okay, have you ever watched any of the deleted scenes or the alternate endings?
I have not, but
Okay.
I want to hear.
May I spoil something for you?
Oh, yes, please.
So one of the like all this was all deleted, but there's a point in the movie where Alex and Clear are like on a beach or something, and they're like talking about all the things that are going to happen. So one of the deleted scenes is that like they get busy on the beach,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she ends up being pregnant with
Hmm.
yeah, she ends up being pregnant, which is like where you're like, okay, now like on top of like teen death, we're bringing in teen pregnancy. But I thought that her seeing the reflection of the bus the way that Alex did would have made more sense if they had stuck with the pregnancy storyline, because I'm like, oh, like if he's like, his child is there with her and he says, I'll always be with you. Like, I was like, okay, a lot of this makes sense. Glad they dropped it. Um, but I just thought that was such a weird choice to make in the first place. And they were like, nah, never mind.
Yeah, they're like, I'll just film this just in case. We're at a beach. Let's just
Yeah.
and then yeah, whatever beach they're at in New York. It's I mean, it's not New York doesn't have beaches, but
Yeah. She
yeah.
she just yeah, she's not a very interesting character. So I thought it was a really interesting choice to bring her back. And then I don't know what Devon Sawa was doing at the time, but I think he made the right choice. So that it wasn't like his franchise.
I think so too. And I appreciate, just give me just, what I appreciate about these movies is I don't need a through line. You just give me a new group of
No.
people, have
New group of
something
people,
happen.
kill them,
Yeah. And
kill them
just
all.
yeah,
Yeah.
love them. I
And then they have to figure it out all over again. Like it's the same fucking story. So you're
I
like, wait, is it coming back around to us? And you're like, yeah, it is.
I do like in the
We've been
next
down this road.
movies where like there's like newspaper clippings and there's gotta be like fucking like, Reddit or fucking 4chan articles or just like conspiracy theorists like that are like all in on the like if this was like a real thing, right? Being able to like look at like,
Yeah.
oh man, there was the flight in the
Yeah.
2000, and then there's also the fucking highway crash of 2002, and there's also, or I don't know if Final Destination 2 came out in
Are
that
they
too, but
making another one, or did I make that up in my head?
you did not. That is not a premonition. Or what, it is a premonition because it's happening.
Okay, I thought so.
I think so. It's coming out. I think there's one coming
But
out
is it
this
a
year.
sequel or a reboot?
I'm not at liberty to say. I'm sorry. We're gonna run that up to the research team though.
The reason why, like, one, I would be super super happy if Devon Sawa like somehow found his way back. He wouldn't even have to be Alex. He could be anybody.
Yeah.
But I would be interested to see how that conspiracy theory narrative, or like a group of people who were like super into the idea, like with all of the technology and like social media and everything that we have now, like you could totally see some cheesy scene where like they're just watching TikTok videos of people making conspiracy theories like about death having a design. Maybe it's Tony Todd, William
I
Bloodworth.
was I was thinking the other day of that tape from The Ring being watched via TikTok. It'd be kind of
It
funny.
would spread like wildfire.
Yeah. Just bit
Yeah,
that
because
bit.
the last
And that
time
bitch
we
just
saw it, it
climbing
was
out,
videotaped.
people climbing out of people's cell phones and shit. I'd like that. That'd be a pretty fun one. But gosh, and here we are at the end, the Final Destination. And
There
let
will
me,
be another Final Destination.
oh yeah. Now,
It said the internet's confirmed. And Tony
yeah.
Todd confirmed that he would come back as William Bloodworth.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I love that name. That name goes so
Made
hard.
my night.
So let me look through my notes here. Now first, how how would you categorize this movie? Would you call this supernatural? Would you call this more closer to like in the group of like slasher franchises? Because it has the extravagant deaths, right? Where do you feel on that?
That's a great question that I've never thought about before. Maybe it's more of an action packed slasher.
Because
Can it
it's,
be a slasher if there's not like a killer?
well, I think death is the killer, right? Because you have, now I think, death waiting 39 days for some reason, and then waiting 6 months for another reason.
It's toying with them.
Cleaning up after itself, like in the bathroom. Death thinks things through and has a personality, a pretty fucking sadistic one. But that's why I'm thinking, like, all you do, like, this is a Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Just you're removing like a physical presence of someone like pulling the strings literally, right? So
Yeah.
that's how I kind of see it, where it's like, I think, yeah, is this just a supernatural kind of movie? But well, I mean, so is like Nightmare on Elm Street, right? But I think that's where I kind of line it up closer to. I always just pilot with the slasher franchises a little bit because of that, because you have teenagers and then you have, these extravagant deaths. And I think that, yeah, I don't know. I feel like these movies could slide into Nightmare on Elm Street movies, and they scratch that itch for me a little bit.
Yeah, I would say overall, I would agree. I would definitely first and foremost put it in a slasher category, but it also has like it's got like a little bit of an action feel to it after this specific film. Like this one it definitely does well with the suspense, Keith. Like you like see all these little things that might happen and you're not sure when it's going to happen. You just know that everything is part of it. But I would say it's a slasher. And it does scratch that itch. Like if they put out another one, like I consider that slasher.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
these movies, while never great, they're always fun and always watchable.
They're always fun. Absolutely. And they're rewatchable because you kind of forget the absurdity of some of the deaths. And then when you see it again, you're like, oh yeah, this is just as crazy as I remember it being.
Now, listeners, when we watch these movies, as we have for so many years, we close with a boo rating, 1 to 5. Now, how many boos would you award this film? I'm glad you were. I'm glad you. I'm glad you weren't prepared, because I wasn't either, and I knew I was going to ask you.
I'm never prepared when it's a movie that, like, I've watched it so many times that I would have to say it's like one of my favorite movies. But if like someone asked me for a list of movies that they absolutely no, I would tell them they should watch it if they'd never seen it.
I would always 10 out of 10 recommend this movie. Does that mean that it's great? No.
No. And I would only really recommend it to people who say that they're into horror movies and that they want to go back and watch something that is a little bit different, because it was very different at the time. I'm going to say, based off of how many times I've seen it and how much I love how it's built this whole crazy franchise that I find to be very entertaining, and the amount of laughter that I had today watching it, 3.5.
3.5 boos. I am inclined to agree. And one thing I did forget to say, about Mr. William Bloodworth is, the inclusion of Tony Todd will always bump something up half a star. So just
at least depending on how much he's in the movie.
And I'd say for a supporting role, a cameo role, I'll give him the half a boo extra, probably a full boo if you got some significant screen time. But yeah, I'm gonna land on 3.5 too. I want to do this just because it is not it's not my favorite Final Destination movie.
Me either.
But I love the originality of it. I love the dumb cleverness of it. And then also,
They struck gold
yeah,
for sure. Like they came up with a fun idea and they were like, we've got Devon Sawa. We
let's go.
can make this
Yeah,
happen.
we got the Sawa, so there's nothing to worry about. As his father said, we have our whole lives ahead of us.
Our whole
Where,
lives ahead of us.
yeah, just a fucking weirdo. Um, so gosh, 3.5, 3.5. We will tell
That's
our
good.
yeah, we'll tell our documentarians to log that. Um, we'll run it up to the team.
Also, I think it is important to note because I was explaining the boo scale to Joel,
Uh-huh.
husband Joel, and he said, "Well, shouldn't more boo be a bad rating?" So he was
Mm.
thinking that like like not like a boo, like a ghost. He was thinking like when you're booing.
Boo.
Yeah, like boo. Yeah. And I was like, no, the boos are good. So just for anyone listening, more boos is good. It's still a higher rating.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, more booze is good because we're talking about like how many boos with an exclamation point. You know what I mean? So BOO
Yeah.
exclamation point is yeah,
Mhm.
startle boo,
Startling boo.
Yes. Um, well, shit. Is there anything else that we want to say about Final Destination before we wrap up?
I think my only other thought to share, and maybe it's more of a franchise comment than
Sure.
this specific movie, and I'll say the same thing about Scream. If they keep making these, I'll keep watching them. I'll watch these forever. They can
Oh,
only improve with CGI and like effects getting better and better. So
oh yeah, it's like a slow drip. I
yeah.
will just continue just giving me these movies. I
Mhm.
will watch them. I
Possibilities are endless.
oh yeah, absolutely.
You
And they're
don't need a
just
returning cast even to like to fuel it. That is an accomplishment in itself.
oh
So
yeah, especially demonstrated by the second one, where Clear is like the least interesting person in that whole movie. But we will,
she's also the least interesting person in this movie.
that's also true. Poor Allie Larder. It's not her fault. She tries. I hope
I
she auditioned with that sculpture speech. It was pretty great.
I actually really like Allie Larder, which is funny because I always think she's the most boring character in most movies, with the exception of Varsity Blues. Haven't
Hmm.
seen that in a long time, but I like her playing like a mean girl character.
Also starring a Dawson's Creek alumni.
Yes, James
Yeah,
Vanderbeek.
right. So
We should just, you know what? Let's cancel this. Let's do a Dawson's Creek podcast.
I know.
Why aren't we doing that?
It'll be really funny if I find out that whole Andy Joey Pacey thing happened in season 3. Maybe we'll find out. But right, because she goes away to that like house for a minute. But it was like something like with like her mental health, and then she bonds with like someone that she's
Yeah, like it's like a
there.
group home, it's like a group home situation, and then she bonds
Right.
with like another guy, basically.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
whoa,
Like in a
yeah.
relationship way, not in like a friendship way.
Yeah. That's hard. But man, I always had a crush on Andy. So, all right, well,
Same.
welcome. Yeah. Um,
If you all enjoyed our Dawson's Creek podcast.
yeah. Damn, I'm trying to think of the name off the top of my head, but I can't. Um, yeah, so we'll just call it 321 Creek and just be on the lookout for that.
That's good.
Well, gosh, thanks everybody. We'll see you next time. Natalie, goodbye. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Kyle.
Thank
Amazing.
I know. Thanks everybody. 321 Ghost. And that was our episode on Final Destination. If you enjoyed listening to us, and if you made it this far, I'd certainly hope that you did, be sure to stay in the loop regarding all things 321 Ghost by following us at 321 Ghost Pod on Instagram, as well as at 321 Ghost Pod on Twitter. Yes, we are still on Twitter, and who knows for how long we'll stay with that dumpster fire, but it is still the best place for sports news, so I don't know. If you'd prefer to reach out to us via email to share your thoughts, critiques, or pressing concerns, you can do that by emailing us at 321ghostpod@gmail.com. If you're listening to us on a streaming platform or any other platform that allows you to leave a review, we'd certainly appreciate it if you did. How are you supposed to grow without first-hand feedback? Maybe we'll even humor a suggestion for a movie to discuss. Who knows? As a wise captain once said, the power is yours. All music written and recorded by me. Thanks for the listen, and see you next time on 3, 2, 1, Ghost.